Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Decentra Talks. Today I am with Ryan from Tellor. Hi, Ryan. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hey, uh, thanks for having me. My name is Ryan. I work at the decentralized Oracle protocol called Tellor. That's spelled Tellor, not to be confused with Teller Finance. Um, yeah. Should I just kind of go into my beginnings, or
Yeah, well, I'd
what's a
like
good way
to
to?
really know what Tellor is. You said it's a decentralized Oracle. I think the Oracle part is probably what needs explaining for most people.
Yeah. Yeah, so essentially there's this thing called the Oracle problem that has come about just when building the Ethereum blockchain. Basically, I mean, just with any blockchain, they're very kind of siloed sources of information. They only know what's going on within them, and any kind of information that is outside of the blockchain um, is kind of a foreign language. So the big question, the problem that arises is how do you bring that outside information to inform these things called smart contracts, like derivatives contracts or just anything that kind of is like escrowing us an amount of money. It's going to need some conditions to be met that are informed by data that is not native to the blockchain. So that's a lot of words, but we basically bring data on chain, um, and we do it in the most um, censorship resistant and decentralized way possible to try to address this Oracle problem, which is how do you get this data on chain without compromising the security of the blockchain?
Some examples for this would be prices of certain tokens. When you're trying to trade tokens, for example, you need to know what price each token is for that trade to go in successfully. Is that right?
Right, right. And an example I like to use is Ethereum surprisingly doesn't know what its price is in terms of the US dollar. So typically in traditional finance, you're just having the centralized exchange kind of dictate that, which is, as we've seen in recent events, is a very risky assumption to make that they're going to actually bring on or provide the right data. So yeah, exchanges are like we're pretty much the go-to use case right off the bat.
From my experience with Teller and trying to understand what you guys do, I see that you have really put importance on making this a decentralized system where anybody can participate, and you've done it pretty effectively. Could you maybe walk me through how you guys have accomplished this?
Yeah, I mean, we had a pretty much so the three founders, Nick, Brenda, and Mike. The whole idea has been to kind of stay fundamentally sound to the origination of crypto. Like, Bitcoin kind of paved the way for how you can create this anonymous, decentralized, censorship-resistant ecosystem. So they've always kind of had this as like a nice North Star to stick around on. And that mixed with not bending on these principles and not chasing, these fads or, these marketing pump partnership schemes. Um, that's been kind of like the core tenet that's allowed us to kind of weather these ups and downs and these crazy times. Um, but yeah, just so having those principles in place has just kind of allowed as they build the architecture, it's just allowed them to not necessarily get too crazy with what is entailed with keeping this as decentralized and censorship resistant as possible.
one of the ways you guys accomplish this is by having data reporters that can submit the prices for certain token pairs, for example, that are reporting the data for you. And anyone is able to participate in this given that they have enough of your token. And that is different from the way other oracles in the space operate. An example that comes to mind is Chainlink. So what are some struggles that you guys have with that, and like what are some positives that you have with letting other people come up and report the information themselves?
Yeah, I mean the whole thing with us is that, we want to try to take all this, game theory and tokenomic crypto economics. We want all this stuff to be happening on chain. It's referred to as explicit staking, which is, these reporters, they don't have to go through any whitelisting, no permissioned um, medium or middleman. They just need to stake a bond, and that can ultimately get disputed if they provide bad data. So um, this is like this is just how this just allows everything to kind of remove that trust quality that a lot of these other institutions, very traditional corporate, what we refer to as fintech. Actually, we just got back from ETHSF and had that was kind of our motto, is like, are you going to choose the censorship resistant route, or are you going to just build what what we've been living in the past, which is just a very like centralized fintechy way of just providing data. um yeah, did I answer your question?
That does answer my question. Yeah. So to recap, or just to repeat what you said, you take this approach to remove the trust that usually is necessary when dealing with centralized oracles or any kind of traditional fintech company. And that's essentially why you have built the system in such a way where anybody can participate. And by creating this staking mechanism,
Yeah.
you allow people to dispute like bad data, which I think is a very effective way of dealing with it. And I really like what you guys are doing. Um, to uh, to go from there, I'd like to know a couple of things that distinguish you from other oracles in the space, whether that be Chainlink or anybody else that is doing something similar to you. What do you think makes Tellor special?
Yeah, I mean, I really lucked out. This is my first crypto job, and I just watching this space kind of evolve over the past couple of years. I I just feel really lucky that I found a place that hasn't really kind of just like tried to bend with the the hot narrative. It's just one of those things where um I lost my train of thought there.
No worries,
Yeah.
it happens.
No, yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, so the ability to stick with that, that consistency, um on top of the fact that we're trying to do everything the right way, having everything done on chain, anonymously, permissionlessly. That's what I feel like kind of makes us stick out. There's a lot of, other projects will have, they'll have the white listing, or they'll have like a huge percentage of the token held. These are just like all things that like, and probably comes from a little bit of the background of Nick and Brenda, a couple of the founders. They have an economic by training background, as well as working in the government. So I feel like they're a little bit more sensitive to trying to make sure that we're trying to do everything by the book. Obviously, there's no guarantees here, especially with this regulatory uncertainty. But um, there's just a lot of um, preconceived ideas about how to make sure that this thing uh, is not gameable by us. The idea is to make us as small of a player as possible. Whereas, there's another with things like Chainlink, they do a great job. They're an institution. They've provided this sense of trust and quality. But that's again, that's that difference is like, for us, that's not why we're here in the first place. So that's like kind of like the opposite. Like the idea is to be trustless.
I see what you're saying. So the way I see Teller, even in the way you guys build your tech, everything seems to be way more spread out, and a lot more people are responsible for keeping this running without actually being like key players in the DAO or in the company itself. So, for example, you guys have a lot of developers that are just kind of participating without actually being part of the team, or you have data reporters that are participating without being part of the team. And I think that that's a very fresh way to tackle this problem, and I hope to see it succeed, and I think it will succeed, despite the difficulties in the approach. I want to ask you a couple of questions about you. How did you get involved with Teller?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a funny rom-com story between me and Mike Zemrose, the chief strategy officer. He's also one of the founders. But essentially, I was working at a quote unquote blockchain company that indeed had nothing to do with blockchain. They actually had fired their blockchain architect had left like this second week that I was there. And we just became essentially like a customer service center for UPS's really poor uh, performance style. Um, but yeah, that was doing that for like a year, and I was like, I need to actually get in blockchain. I don't have any technical experience. I'm not a developer, but I just need to figure out how to get my way into crypto. I was following the crypto scene since 2017, very passionately involved I'm all about like all the philosophy behind it and everything. So I just had to find a way to do it. So ended up trying to take a Solidity course through this awesome group of guys called Chain Shot, um, where it was there was only three of us. We were doing like this part-time thing where it was after work. Um, I myself and Mike kind of were trying to get through this, weren't really uh, learning much just because of our the speed that they needed to go to get through that course with mixed with our actual foundational expertise as developers. It just wasn't a good match. But at the end of the day, Mike and I kind of bonded on that kind of being left in the dust, and ultimately I got a job out of it. They At the end of the class, they were looking for a biz dev associate. I was really ecstatic to get into the crypto in any type of capacity. I had no idea what an Oracle was. I did actually have Chainlink in my wallet. I had no idea what they actually did, but it was just the hot thing to have. And fast forward 2 years, here I am.
When I first heard about Teller, I heard about it through Nick, and I was also puzzled. Like it was such a difficult thing for me to digest. So I can totally understand that. But it seems from knowing you, you are constantly trying to participate in the tech side of things and in the business side of things, despite, like you said, not having a direct technical background. How do you do it? What keeps you motivated to work on these difficult problems?
I mean, yeah, there's just like so much to like. I think, one of the main things that is so interesting about crypto in general is that we're literally just innovating on something that hasn't really been um, expanded upon since, I don't know, for hundreds of years. Like we're talking about money and how to incentivize actors. And it's just something that's the, the implications for that are so inspiring that just being able to like, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg with what kinds of things we can do with, crypto economic incentives. Um, I think that's just what kind of keeps me going. And like, Tellor's protocol itself is such a cool um, game theory of, how do we minimize the attack vectors for all these like anonymous people, and how do we make sure that they all kind of work together to provide this one awesome like trustless source of information. Um, and yeah, and I guess and the fact that it's just like I'm we're a very small team, so every minimal effort that you put in just has that much more um, value add. So just yeah, I've always been kind of had a builder mentality. I've always been excited to be part of cool new things that could have like large implications. Um, and yeah, that's I've always kind of been in a startup for the past 10 years or so. So this was actually something where all those things, all the stars kind of align where like the product is there, it's in the right industry for me. And yeah, and it's just like every little step that we go forward with is just such an awesome groundbreaking step forward in a frontier of something that has very little expertise on. So I think that's also a really cool thing.
I agree with you. This space is very new, and we're working on something that has been very static for a long time. Money, specifically, allowing people to participate in a financial system regardless of where they're from or who they are or what history they have. I find it to be extremely motivational, and seeing Teller also stick to those values and push them forward is very exciting to me, which is why I like participating in the DAO so much. I want to ask you a couple of questions about business development. What is it like doing business development in this space? Like, what does a day look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it has been outreach, going into people's discords. And this has actually been a really interesting thing like that, I feel like other industries are just it's just like a brand new thing of like you're going into a Discord server and immediately they'll know if you're just there to shill. So it's like this kind of like dance of, are you actually here for the community, and are you actually here to provide constructive feedback or just constructive ideas. And that took me a little bit to learn, was like it's just you can't just go down the list and be like, "Hey, guys need an Oracle," without, it really goes a long way to get involved in the conversations and like where they're at. You got to meet them where they're at. Because, a lot of times they might need an Oracle in the future, or they're just like going through a whole governance, that is not Oracle related. So it's just like the timing isn't right. And that took me some time to understand of like, I had a previous job in sales. It was just like, just get to the point, and like that you only have a limited amount of time. But now it's like, you got to really, be part of the community and stay for a little bit, stay a while before you can, just start plugging your own. Um, we did one for Fate Protocol, that just the whole process of, providing a governance proposal. The idea is like, you want to try to do as much, um, you want to do as, you have to essentially pitch yourself, but you want to do it in a way that, integrates with where they're at. So that was a really interesting process of kind of going through their code and seeing, what works, what doesn't, how we can actually be beneficial, and get the vote of approval. So actually didn't get used by them, but I just remember that process of it was really cool. I went through it with Tim, our lead Solidity dev, and we kind of put together a nice proposal. And that was the first time I'd ever done something like that. And I was like, yeah, this is really cool. This is like a very, it's a very futuristic way of like, doing governance in, you're visiting these other people's towns, but you're not really actually leaving your physical space. You're just kind of jumping in and out of these Discord servers. But yeah, short
I
answer,
really
like I live in Discord.
I really love what you said about having to actually meet people where they're at. Since there's so many new DAOs and companies popping up in this space all the time, like you said, it is very easy for people to tell when you're just trying to show a product versus when you're actually interested in what they're building and when you're actually able to help them accomplish their goals. So that conversation and that dance of finding like a balance between you know pushing your work and actually helping the other party is very important. So you spend a lot of time on Discord, and that's how you do business development. Is there a process that you take to find suitable Discord servers or DAOs that might be compatible with Tellor?
Um, I mean, yeah, it's, Discord isn't really geared for like just discovery of new Discord servers. So it really, actually, a lot of the time too, I spend on Twitter, which is, um, referred, I'm sure you know about crypto Twitter. It's just like such an awesome source of information for what's the topic, where is the industry focusing on right now? And and ultimately how does the oracle fit in there, and then once you kind of filter it from that, then you can kind of see which projects are like doing it right, which ones you want to be associated with. I can't tell you how many partnership proposals we've gotten, but it's just like, and that's just another, kudos to the founding team. It's like we could have chased all these partnerships. I think there were a couple in the beginning when they were just starting out, but it's like you learn very quickly like who's actually here to build something cool and who's looking to make that quick buck. And just to kind of reiterate that point of like, that's what's so cool about this space is like it's so obvious, when you're just kind of grifting and just trying to, you're not actually there to add anything.
It seems that the experience that you've gained working in this space for a couple of years now and being interested in the space for so long has given you the knowledge necessary to easily be able to tell apart the real projects, the projects that have that are adding value, and projects that are just there to grab as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, and leave. I
Right.
think that that is not very common with newcomers. All people that jump into this space, they see something that is well advertised and marketed, and then they either invest in that project or spend a lot of time trying to discuss it with people. And a lot of that time and money gets wasted, and it pushes people out of the field and it makes people scared to participate. So from there, I want to know what are some easy tells for you that allow you to tell what is a good project and what is a cash grab.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, it's really been interesting. Just, I feel like time is a really good indicator. Like, I mean, one of our users, Liquidity, I just remember when they first came out, I think you just even talking about them, you're like, oh yeah, it's 0% interest rates. And you're like, all right, come on. But, we had extensive conversations with Robert, the founder, and like they just were thinking about all this, stuff prior, having those fundamentally sound principles, decentralization, like, fully, they even decentralized their front end, and and even considering having an extra oracle on as part of their solution was like, that was groundbreaking when they did that. And that was for me, that they, watching them kind of stick out from all this rubble of crumbling like stable coins and exchanges like these. I'm not gonna, be able, I don't think I could say that I was gonna be able to pick them as, as such a cool, um legitimate project from the beginning. I was just like, I was very fresh when we first started talking to them. I was still kind of trying to figure everything out. Um, but actually, now that I think about it, our CTO Nick has been a really good, um, kind of yay or nayer. So I think having that kind of, um, benchmark to kind of bounce off against has been like, again, like for my first job in crypto, that is I should be, counting my blessings here, just because I could have, fallen into any other project that didn't kind of have that initial prowess of, this is obviously smells like BS. Um, but yeah, I think at this point it's kind of having those players that have stuck around through time and through all the, destructive um, projects that we've seen come and go. Um, it kind of allows me to build a little arsenal of like, all right, this is how you stick around. I mean, even, Bitcoin and Ethereum are great examples themselves, because these are the two longest withstanding blockchains. I might be misstating that, but in my mind, they've been time tested, and like, you can have a bunch of hit pieces about, why they're not gonna, we're gonna be the ETH killer, that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, they're still like, they have the largest and most faithful like developer communities, and we're even seeing on the building side, if you're EVM compatible, you're a lot more there's a lot more building activity because you're still close to that ecosystem. So yeah, it's just been I don't know. It's been interesting to see if the closer you stay to those, those fundamentals, principles, then that's just like a much easier way to stick out for me.
That's a lot of good advice. So partly I want to recap just to make sure that I understand.
Yeah, there's a lot
So
of words.
projects. Oh no, no worries. It's very it's given me a lot of information. So part of it is projects that are able to withstand the test of time, things that have stuck around during all of these different industry changing events, like what's happening now with FTX or what happened a couple of years ago. That's a great way to tell. Another thing is how close they stick to the fundamentals, which is decentralization, and then having a strong community of people that are able to help guide you, or you're able to bounce ideas off of, to know like what is worth sticking to and what isn't. And there's always a bonus plus if you are EVM compatible. You're probably going to have a lot more developers that are able to work on those projects, and so they might last longer and they might be more they might stand stronger in comparison to other experimental blockchains or new products. Did I get that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's just kind of like this feedback loop of the brain trust. This is, Ethereum specifically was kind of like the first endeavor into this world of building these smart contracts and different applications you can add on top of the simple use case of Bitcoin. So, they were kind of the first to market of where do these new age economists and like crypto economic theorists go, and like they've had that first to market advantage this whole time, and it's just been constantly compounding.
I agree. I find a lot of value in the two major blockchains. Like Bitcoin is an incredible way of transferring value and making sure that everything is public and viewable by anybody. Ethereum has done something really special by allowing anybody to build on top of it, which is to me that's a sign of success. There's a lot of products and projects all over the world in all different fields. When they allow you to build on top of them or create something valuable on top of them, they tend to win out in the end. Something that comes to mind is like Roblox, which is a game that lets kids build the game, and I think that Ethereum really won by taking that concept and sticking with it, allowing developers to expand the use cases of Ethereum. Um, I wanted
Totally.
to ask you a bit about. So I know that obviously Tellor is always going to be a project, but what is your favorite use case of blockchain besides Tellor? What do you like using on the blockchain?
Um, I play music, so I'm kind of really interested in just how this technology is going to. We've already seen what it's done for digital art, but I've just been kind of always sitting on the edge of like let's disrupt Spotify and see what happens there. So I've been keeping an eye on that in terms of how it's democratizing the value extraction that just a song gives. So that's been kind of really interesting to watch because we've seen the pathway has been paved just for NFTs in general, but now we're kind of going down this road of like music specifically, in which the music industry entirely has been kind of um, it's like it's a very oligarchical situation right now. So it's just like it's one of those things that's ripe for disruption, especially with the technology that's built on decentralization, censorship resistance.
I have to agree with you on the on that use case because Spotify, I've seen how much people make off of Spotify, and it's a very, very, very small amount in comparison to what the music actually brings in for Spotify itself. The musicians don't get as much as they should. I've seen an application that utilizes superfluid streams to basically gate music. So every time you want to listen, you have to open a stream to the platform. It's similar to Spotify. You pay a very small amount every second that you're listening, and that payment goes directly to the musician that has posted the music. So there's like cutting out the middleman again, which is always a plus. And I see that
Oh yeah,
micropayments really going far in terms of content creation and content consumption. Um, are what kind of music do you play? Can I ask? Can I ask that?
yeah, yeah. I play guitar, like guitar, sing, rock, alt
I
rock.
also alt rock. That really speaks to me. I also play guitar, although I'm really I just haven't been able to sit down and take it seriously for a very long time. Like I always play for a year and then I stop playing. Hopefully, I'll be able to get more serious about that. Would you have any advice to that? How do you stay consistent with playing music?
That's a really good question. I've also had an on and off relationship with my guitar. I think for me, a lot of it is collaborating with people. I think that's like kind of one of the, just I mean, just in general, you get a lot more by building stuff together as opposed to the self-serving like it's I'm a one-man band. Listen to my music, listen to me. Um so yeah, I think just trying to get involved with other musicians or just other people
I've
to
never
build with.
I've never been able to play with other people. I always like cross that off due to thinking like I don't have enough skill. But I think that's very valid. I noticed that with programming and building tech is that working alone, like sure it's fun, it could get you somewhere, but the more people you have, that it compounds. It's like two people like are able to do way more than each individually. So yeah,
Absolutely.
thank
It's
you for
it's a
sharing.
whole different language, you're it's all about, a communication style when you're able to find someone and listen, there's always going to be someone at your level. You just have to find the right venue for that. And, just to go back to me and Mike meeting at that coding class, that was like a very serendipitous moment where we both were at the same level of understanding the technical side. And I think that's what was so enticing for him to bring me on, was so that he could have someone at his level to kind of, you know, climb the ranks of understand. And that's ultimately like this is why I'm starting to do some development, which you've been awesome to kind of shoot ideas off of for the front end stuff. But the idea is to kind of really dig as technical as possible, from a standpoint of not having any technical background. And really credit to the dev team at Tellor who's been like super. They've been super accommodating for me. I'll have questions. I dig into the code with them sometimes, so I really do try to um, understand up to an extent that I'm not gonna be able to have like a legitimate conversation with the user probably about the contracts, but it's been super nice to be able to, not have that barrier of like you wouldn't get it, don't even bother. So, and that's yeah, that again that yeah, that kind of stuff just compounds as long as you have someone to kind of do that with you.
What I've noticed in working in tech, developers they love to share what they know. We have this like as developers in general, ever since this all started, we've had this culture of open source code of sharing what we know, and I think that it brings people like it certainly brings me pleasure when I see you building something for Teller. When you ask me a question, like it makes me very happy because I can share something that I really love doing with you, and I think that that's the case for a lot of us. So I really hope to see in the future that people take that to heart and are able to ask questions and are able to participate, despite maybe not being as high level as other people that are that they know. There's really no shame in the learning process. In fact, I think it's the most important part of the of coding and of tech is just learning new things and risking it and taking those steps to grow. So I hope in the future I see you building more, and I hope to be there for
Yeah.
you when you do build. Is there anything that you want to build in the future, whether for Teller or otherwise?
Um, I've always actually, I mean, it's kind of funny that you brought up that streaming thing because I think that was my ending project that I never actually tackled for that Solidity course was I was trying to figure out a way to get songs streaming tokenized. So that I think that's going to be, I mean, I'm actually really enjoying. I mean, this is timely. We just put up that fund to feed site. I'm actually really excited to see how that thing gets used right now, because I think it really opens the doors for, for users who are not familiar with Teller to kind of, use it in a much more user friendly experience. So I think, there's the lofty goal of like, yeah, that would be cool if I could build uh, music streaming site. But ultimately, I'm really happy with like diving into things that um, I've gotten my hands into and seeing the seeing the results.
I am super excited to see how making a front end for what you guys are doing, how that's going to change the way people use Teller. One thing that I'm a very visual person, so when I first got introduced to Teller, it was a bit difficult for me to really understand what's going on because a lot of it is through CLIs and a lot of it is very technical.
Right.
So seeing this transition into a more user friendly, more approachable way of doing this decentralized reporting, I think is going to be very important for you guys, especially since one thing that I like seeing is how your products are so they're very like they do one thing and they do it well, and you have so many of them, and I think that that really opens the door for people to experiment and play around with these products. So yeah, I'm super excited for the fund to feed. I'm super excited for the auto pay stuff, and hopefully we'll be able to eventually work on something to simplify the reporting side of things as well.
No, yeah, it's really nice. It's really cool to see this kind of stuff come together because, we've been building Teller in its multiple versions over the past 2 years. So now we're really starting to kind of spiral down into that really specific experience, and I'm really excited to just kind of watch that develop because especially with the entire crypto industry environment, like starting to warm up to this concept of and I'm just realizing now that this is what that one question I forgot to answer. Like, what are the kind of troubles that we're like that we're trying to navigate? And I think right now it's we're it, things like FTX and Stella, like those things help the narrative change on a wide scale. So, as these things kind of, as these facades kind of get, wiped away, then we can start really focusing on what does it mean to get data on chain permissionlessly. Um, Users are very used to the experience of getting their data just like basically by pulling an API, and then doing it, and that's another kudos to Chainlink. They have such an awesome user experience. Um, but they've also essentially trained the users to kind of um, pay for trusted data in a certain way. So now how do we change this narrative? Okay, you're going to we're going to like remove a lot of these levers that normally are controlled by the creators, and we're going to give you all that power, but it's just going to require you to kind of, do a little bit more doc digging and understanding how this mechanism works so that, you'll be able to pull the levers yourself.
I recall earlier in this conversation you mentioned that there was a company or DAO that you guys worked with that instead of having one oracle, they have two oracles. And in my view, the way I see Tellor, I think that that is going to be where Tellor shines, is as a backbone, as a fallback in case any of these major centralized oracles that sometimes they fail, sometimes they're too expensive to operate correctly. Sometimes just things don't work out, and I think that Tellor can provide this like very stable, very long term, very consistent data reporting. So I think it'll be used more and more as a fallback mechanism in case things like Chainlink end up failing or they don't work for the specific use case that the developers need. Do you think that that's true?
Yeah, I mean we are the biggest proponents of multiple Oracle systems. So we actually have started the Alliance of Decentralized Oracles, kind of the, to the tune of open source collaboration. We are not in this to we believe that this is definitely something that can be a multiplayer game. And yeah, I think, yeah, to your point, yeah, we're gonna start seeing a lot more of those situations where, just it doesn't necessarily have to be a fallback. Like we're also a one of three median for Ampleforth, and it's literally just, we are confident that we are a decentralized and permissionless, option in itself, but there's no harm or foul by adding another, protocol that it might be claiming the same thing and might have different mechanisms. But the idea is that your protocol isn't reliant on, you know, and I feel like it's a scale too, because like you can kind of go up and down the spectrum of how decentralized you want to be, and we're always going to push for the more decentralized the better. So whatever that means to you, we'd love to be a part of it. We're a scrappy little group of developers that are, will help walk you through anything, that you want to get put on data on chain. But yeah, it doesn't have to be just us. It'd be cool. It's fine. We're confident in the crypto economics of it, but again, yeah, we have that alliance of decentralized oracles, which is a really cool group of people that, they all have their own oracle projects. They're all adding value to how this oracle problem can be solved the best way it can.
So I learned a lot in this conversation, and I am very that you took the time to do this. I do have one last question I want to ask before we can wrap this up, and that would be do you ever see in the future that oracles are going to be used to not only predict, for example, prices, but stuff in the real world itself, like bringing information about physical assets, for example, onto the blockchain? Do you see that? Do you see us developing in that direction eventually?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, yeah. I mean, right now it's it's possible to bring on, like an equity stock through the mechanism as it stands. But maybe are you referring to more like real estate?
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
real estate would be a big one.
No, 100% agree. I think, it's the real grab right there is when you have the regulatory, red tape, if you will, involved. Then that's where you're starting to rub up against that censorship resistant um, fallibility. So I think ultimately the goal here is to get everything on the blockchain. So I wouldn't I'm definitely convinced that in the future will be. I think we just have to really, and we're going to see in the near future a lot of different changes going on in the regulatory atmosphere. But I think that needs to be a little bit more clear first, how the regulatory agencies are going to start implementing, or just how is this going to live together? And it's gonna be dictated by them. Once that's a little bit more clear, then we can start going down those, more physical, maybe just, putting our entire bodies on the blockchain, just going full meta. But yeah, I don't know. Yes, to answer your question, that is definitely in the future. I just think that there's just a lot more ducks that need to be gotten in a row first.
From what I've seen, especially this last month, with these major centralized exchanges collapsing, and this is going to drive a lot of regulatory changes. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. We still don't know,
Yeah.
but I do see your point, and I think that there is going to be a lot of very big changes ahead of us. This technology is extremely effective at what it does, so I don't see it going away anytime soon. I only see it expanding more and more, but the mechanism and how we're going to make that happen is still, like you said, unclear. Um, Ryan, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really learned a lot today, and I hope people who are listening in have as well. Do you have your music shared anywhere so I could leave that in a link, or or should we just add links to Tellor in the description?
Yeah, I don't have any. I have a bunch of like bedroom recordings, but maybe Teller links would probably be more apropos.
Got it. Got it. All right. So then, yeah, you heard it, guys. Links to the Teller Discord, documentation, and description. And thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for listening, everyone. This has been it, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, Hero.